Hi everyone, welcome back to GameMaker Cast. It's Mickey again, and in this lesson we're going to be working on the skate or fall game. Right now everyone is moving pretty slow, the background, the floor, the obstacles, and our player. It just doesn't make it very difficult to jump over these obstacles. So what I want to do is kind of work on that, make it feel a little better, and then we'll start beefing up the obstacles and potentially add in a new one. Now, to get started, let's open up our objects and let's go to our parent for our static, and we'll just increase the horizontal speed from 2 to 4, and we're going to do the exact same thing for the parent obstacles. So once again, we'll say from 2 to 4, and then we'll run our game here, and once this loads up, you'll see that everything is running faster, giving the effect that the difficulty level has gone up. Now the difficulty level has not gone up, we're just jumping over a single chair, nothing really too hard here. Now what I want to do is introduce a new way to generate these chairs so we can have multiple chairs just kind of in a group. What we want to do is in our spawner code right here, once we choose the obstacle, we want an if statement, or we can use a switch statement depending on how many obstacles we have. And if it is a chair, then we're going to run a script. So for now, we'll just use an if statement. So we'll say if obstacle is equal to obj obstacle chair. If it is, then what we want to do is run src chairs generate. And we'll copy that script name and let's create a new script. Make sure that we call it the chairs generate script. Alright, in here, we're going to take some of the code that we have for our object spawner, which is this information here. We'll just cut that out because we won't be using it. We'll just be using everything in scripts now. Inside the script, let's paste it in. So we have the room width plus 64, and then room height. What I want to do at the very start is just make sure everything is randomized. And I'll make a new variable called number of chairs to generate. Now that's actually pretty long, so we'll just say chairs equals I random range. Let's say in between 1 and 6 chairs. So we'll say repeat for that number of chairs. And what we want to do is, let's actually grab this and let's stick it in our repeat. Now, once we have assigned the X and Y positions, we need to add a little bit of padding or spacing on there. So we could say XX plus equals random range. And in here is the range where we want to add either a negative value or a positive value. If we go to our obstacle, you can see the width is 14. So if we had a little spacing on there, we could 2 pixels over, we could say 16 by 16. So we'll say minus 16 or 16. And we'll say YY plus equals random range minus 16 and 10. Now the reason that I'm choosing 10, and I was playing with this earlier, is in the room our chair starts roughly right about, actually it starts right here. If we were to do minus 10, then we would be at the very bottom. You'll remember that we have an offset that pushes it up, so we don't want to go all the way down here. Okay, so let's see here. Actually, what we could do is we could just say, we could take the offset because we know that we are going to be generating chairs. Let's take a look at what our offset is. Our offset is 8. So in there, sorry, just looking around. If we go to our obstacle, we could just say, or sorry, the spawner, and then the script, instead of 10, let's just say 8. Okay, so once we've added that spacing, we now need to instantiate our obstacle, which is obj chairs, obstacle underscore chair. And right here, we don't really need this anymore, so let's just delete that. And the final thing I want to do is assign some depth to this instance. And the easiest thing we can do is we could take our instance.y position and just make sure it's negative. That means that the higher the chair is, if we have a chair underneath it, the chair underneath will overlap and show on top of that chair. Just makes it look a little bit nicer. Alright, I think that should be okay. If we go back to our spawner, we're calling that, and then we're resetting. Let's take a look at how our game's going to run and see if we have any errors. Alright. Our first chair should be coming up, and they're pretty low. That's fine. That group of chair looks nice. That one's okay. I mean, it's still pretty easy to jump over them. But our game kind of looks a lot better. And the group of chairs just kind of adds some more randomness into it. Okay. Now, what I want to do is add a new obstacle in here. And I'm going to be using ASC Sprite. And I've just created a file which is 16 by 16. I want to make sure I have on my pixel grid here. So we have a 16 by 16 pixels, and I'm just going to use a preset of Edge 32. I believe I used this this palette for the rest of the things. And what I want to do is within this 16 by 16, I'm just going to start drawing a barrel here. So we'll have it come in like this. And right there is good. Now I can take my line tool and just kind of mix them up. Actually, I'll go from here. What's going to look better? I think from these points it'll look better. That's more of a diamond. So let's erase this. Let's see how this one looks. It's still more of a diamond. So let's draw them here. And then we'll turn on our different spots. There we go. So if I use my line tool, I can draw it out like that and like that. So that's not too bad. Make sure we close that. Okay, so now let's take some and fill it. And really all we want is this line here to be kind of swirled in. And now we need to add a little bit of shading in here. So I'll use this color. I can bring up my palette and I can go down. Let's try 10 for now, which is actually way too much. Let's use that color and we'll go down by 10, which will give us a little bit of shading in here. So you can see here, this is kind of how it looks. And we'll just do the top here. Now it takes a while to play around with everything and make it look proper. Up here we'll add some highlights. So we'll go up 5, which will be 56. So up here we'll add in a little bit of highlights. We'll add the highlights there as well. That's not looking, I mean, it's not the best looking barrel, but I think it will do for our game. You know what, that will do just fine. Okay, so let's file and we'll just say export and where we want it to go, and we'll just use my directory skate infinity, and I want a PNG, and I'll just call this barrel. And we don't have any animations, so we don't have to worry about that. We'll just export it. Okay, up here underneath the obstacles, we'll create a new sprite. We'll call this SPR barrel. And we'll say import because we only have the one there. So I'll go to my artwork, skate infinity, and there I'll find my barrel, let it resize, and there it is in all of its beauty. I want to make sure the collision mask is going to be okay, so I will use a precise collision mask. And now I want to create a new obstacle, obj obstacle barrel. I'll assign the sprite, and then I'll make sure that the parent is hooked up to the proper parent. Okay, so now we have a create event. We also have a step event. Now what I want to do is I want to inherit the step event, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to make the barrel spin for now. So let's actually inherit both. Now we'll just keep it with this. We'll say image angle minus equals 0.5. Alright, and now in our obstacle spawner, we have a new object that we can choose from, obj obstacle barrel, and we can say if obstacle equals that, then we want to run the barrel generate script. And actually we should be using a switch statement or a bunch of else ifs. We'll just have it like that for now. Okay, let's make a new script, call it barrel generate. We can come in here and copy the code just to save some time. We'll go back into the generate, and let's say we don't want to, maybe we want more than one, so we'll say barrels equals 1 to 2, and then repeat for the number of barrels that we have. Okay, and obstacle barrel. Now we're not doing anything different yet, but I just want to see if this is going to run, see if we have any errors. Okay, so hopefully we get a barrel here. We might get a chair. So there's our barrel first. You can see it's rotating. It's not rotating in the right direction, and it's extremely slow. So in here, we'll say image angles plus equals, and let's give it 15. Let's run it one more time. And let's see how this looks now. So they're definitely in there. Can definitely just zoom on by them. So these need to be moved up. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to inherit the create event. And I show parent. I want to make this horizontal speed. Horizontal speed times equals 2. So what's going to happen is it's going to have the event inheritance, so the speed is going to be set to 4, and then it's going to come here and say, okay, well, what's 4 times 2? And the speed's going to be set to 8, just to make it a lot faster. Okay, now we have to handle the script here, which is the generate, and we can't do this here. Let's see, we can go up by 16 or down by 0. I think that will fix that. And let's go into the player, and in here we already have the parent. Okay, so that's gonna work. We're just checking to make sure the collision's gonna work there. So let's see if we can get some logs here. So we got a group of chairs and some logs, and definitely caught by them. So I'm gonna have to move those logs up. It should come barreling down here. So let's move them up to start with. Oops, holding down the W key there. So instead of 0, let's say -4 and 16. The only other thing that I want to do here is I want to make the logs bounce up and down. So to do that, we're going to use a little bit of math here. We'll create some new variables in our create event. We'll call one timer, which will be equal to 0. Timer equals 0. We will also have a frequency, and we'll set that to 0.125. And amplitude will be set to 10. So we'll see how we're using these in 1 second. In the step event, what we want to do is say our Y position is going to be plus the sin result of timer times frequency, and then times amplitude, and then we want to increase the timer by 1 each step. So a sine wave just goes up and down, and the amplitude is how high we want it to go. Let's see how that's going to look first before we make any changes here. So hopefully our log will come in. Hopefully this will be the next one. Alright, this is the waiting game. We should probably just make it have one log. And I saw a log go by there, so that's not the correct way we want it to do. So let's actually go to our spawner. And for debugging purposes, we'll say you can only choose the barrel itself. So in the barrel, let's turn this stuff down. The amplitude, let's set to 2. And let's see how that looks. Alright, so we're running again. Hopefully the log will appear over here. I see it happening there, so it's going down too far. So let's set this to 1, and our frequency we can set to, actually that was fine. Let's set to 1 as well. Okay, what I should actually do is put a log up here. So they're kind of bouncing around there. It's not bad. Get another log here. Yeah, actually that's pretty good. We could play around with this as much as we want. That might be 0.5. And it's all going to be about how you think it looks. So let's just give this one more test here. I'm pretty happy with that. And maybe what we can do is we could also say if let's actually increase the logs because I want them up a lot higher. If the logs come in for the spawner, then I want the timer to be a little bit different. So let's say the timer is going to be the room speed times either the min or max, and then if it's a barrel, sorry, not a log, then we want to say minus equals room speed times 1, which will be 1 second. Yeah, so between 1 and 5. So we want to decrease that by 1 second. So there's a chance that the barrels will come in a lot quicker. Let's go to our barrel generate, and let's move this up to -8. One more try. Let's see how this looks. Hopefully will look a little bit better. They'll be up on the blue part. So we got some logs we can jump over. I keep calling them logs, but they're actually barrels. We got a group of chairs. The chair seems to be up. It's still a little bit too high. So again, that's just a numbers thing we can play with. Hopefully it has some more barrels. I think what our game is going to need next is some sounds, because right now it's pretty plain Jane here. We're getting lots of, oh, there's some barrels. Lots of chairs. Okay, well, I mean, we can play with this for a very long time, but I think this is good enough for the episode. We added a new obstacle. We also changed how some of the obstacles work and how some of them are generated. There's our nice retry and quit button. So I'm going to end this here. Please like, subscribe, and if you have any comments or questions, please just leave them in the section below. Thanks.